welcome back to another episode of Sacred Wild Man. Today I would like to talk about Lord of the Rings, and specifically character Frodo from Lord of the Rings. There's the book, there's also the movies. It's been a while since I've read the books, a really long time, and also a really long time since I've seen the movies. However, a new Instagram friend that I made has been posting a lot of Lord of the Rings clips with these gems of lessons within them. And that just got me back into watching more clips of Lord of the Rings. And this time, more than ever before, the character Frodo stands out to me. Now, there might be some discrepancies because it's been a while since I've read the books, which is what the movies are based on. So if the details are mixed up, just ask for your understanding there. But the main thing that I want to hit home is why I am now so impacted by Frodo, and why I believe that he is perhaps the bravest of them all. Although I can say, and I'm sure we can all say, many characters within Lord of the Rings all have bravery. But with Frodo, that never really came across to me. When I first watched the movies, I always thought Frodo was rather lame. It's like, no, I like Legolas, right? Or I like Aragorn. You know, these guys who are very skilled, they are very brave, and they're just cool. They seem like badasses. Like, I want to be like them. And then Frodo was just this small little hobbit, right? And wasn't very seemingly capable of much, could barely defend himself. It's always like, oh man, how many people have to come to your aid before you kind of sack it up, right? And you actually get a handle of this. And in some ways, I think that is also a reflection of myself at the time, right? Watching Frodo and projecting my own internal issues onto him, right? In what ways did I find myself incapable? Wish I could be like a Legolas or like an Aragorn, but didn't have the capacity to. And so it's easier for me to put that onto Frodo rather than see that mirror within myself, look at myself honestly. Now, the specific clips that changed all this for me as I've been rewatching Lord of the Ring clips is in the beginning when the ring finds itself in Frodo's hands, right? Because Bilbo Baggins passes it on to him. And there's the scene between Gandalf and Frodo where Gandalf is telling Frodo that, you need to take this ring from the Shire, and you're going to have to go on this quest to destroy the ring because Sauron is gaining his power again and he's building up an army. And you can tell there's a reluctance from both of them, right? Frodo doesn't want the ring, so he says, no, you must take it. You must take this ring. And Gandalf doesn't want it either, right? Because he's aware of the temptation of, well, if I do take this, I have the intention for good, but I fear that what will come through me will do terrible harm. And so he is pretty firm with Frodo about, I'm not taking this ring. Right? And just so quick of a switch, Frodo goes from trying to offload this ring, this burden onto Gandalf, to in the next second saying or asking, what must I do? And that just really hit me this time. Right? Something so subtle and yet so deep. Because in that question of what must I do, there's no longer any bargaining. Right? He isn't trying to find a way of, okay, well, can I give this to Merry? Can I give this to Pippin? Can I give this to Sam? Can we call Bilbo back so I can give this to him? I don't want it, right? This is too much. This is scary. He immediately, on the spot, says, what must I do? And that says a lot to me about the character and the heart of Frodo, the most unassuming of creatures within the Lord of the Rings, right? You have your elves, you have the orcs, you have the Ents, You have Gandalf, the wizards, the dwarves, all of those creatures seemingly carrying at least some degree of power or magnificence to them. And the hobbits are more so like, they live happy, peaceful, simple lives. They don't really want much, right? They're these unassuming creatures, and they're small. And yet it is the most unassuming, smallest of these creatures who takes on this burden and states, "What must I do?" And so he begins to follow Gandalf's kind of direction and guidance. Okay, where do you need to go? Where do you need to take this ring? And then I'll meet you there. And of course, we aren't ever defined necessarily by any single moment. We can be, but we will certainly ebb and flow. And so for those who have watched Lord of the Rings, who have read the book, you're familiar with Frodo's wrestlings and stumbles along the way. There's a point where he tells Gandalf that he wishes the ring never came to him and that none of this had ever happened. And Gandalf empathizes with Frodo. It's like, yeah, many people don't. And yet, the only thing we can do is to figure out what to do with the time that we're given. Right? I'm here. You, the viewer, are here. People, humans, are here. Why? What's our purpose? Is there any meaning to any of this? These are some of the just enduring questions from, however far back you want to look. Humans have been figuring out, what's the point of all of this? Is there any meaning? Is there purpose? And so we have this time to figure that out for ourselves. Everyone will probably have a different answer. But upon hearing these words from Gandalf, there's a scene where Frodo, as he's kind of wavering and also grieving that he has been given this task and doesn't know if he wants to follow through, those words stir with him the wherewithal and courage and determination to continue. And so he pushes his boat and he sets out, and his faithful friend Sam comes with him. And then there's another scene later on, showing again, he's wavering, he feels fearful, is his encounter with Galadriel. And once again, she, like many others, tells him, this task has been appointed to you, and if you don't figure it out, nobody else will. And then Frodo responds, though I know what I must do, it's just I'm afraid to do it. And that line really stuck with me too, of wow, how relatable of a statement, how relatable of a feeling, right? Of the number of times in my life where there was no question what I needed to do, right? All of the intellectual rationalization, the mental gymnastics of, okay, well, do I need to plan this way? But what about this? What about these factors I need to account for? None of that really mattered in the end, right? Because those were all ways in which I would delay the journey, delay the action, delay the decision, right? Because it feels scary. I'm just afraid to do it, as Frodo said. And this is something that this time around, I don't have that same judgment that I had before of Frodo, because I see myself more clearly. I see myself in the character of Frodo. Yes, there are times where I do feel afraid, right? There are times where I find myself hating myself, right? Telling myself, oh, you're such a coward, and we all go through these wrestlings of narratives within ourselves, that there's this tug of war between this part of us that knows that we're meant for something greater. At least for those of us who are attuned to this feeling within our heart, there's this beating, there's this thumping, that there's something more here. And then wrestling with the inner coward, the one who's afraid, right? And part of this journey, or this hero's journey, is working that out within ourselves, as Frodo does, and as his companions along the way do as well. Because on this journey, this hero's journey, if you're familiar with Joseph Campbell, who wrote about this, we also have helpers, allies who come along the way. But we don't meet them until we set out on the journey. And so with this whole new kind of experience of Lord of the Rings and a whole new perspective of Frodo and ability to relate to him, I have to say I came away with this feeling of, wow, perhaps he was the bravest of all. This small, little, unassuming hobbit who probably just wanted to live a simple, peaceful life, answered the call on this harrowing journey, one that filled him with terror. And this is where, when I reflect on, what is bravery? What does it mean to be a man who is brave, who has a strong heart? The size and stature don't matter so much. Talent probably doesn't even matter that much, because I have far more respect for the man, even if he's small, even if he's a hobbit, who answers the call, even if he's afraid, than I do respect for a man who has, the wherewithal, all the talents, the strength, the stature, the muscles, and yet refuses to answer the call, or just uses that for his own benefit. That there's no contribution or greater meaning and purpose, that he just enjoys that by himself and doesn't care about anybody else. And so, to the men out there who are watching, to the men who know what I'm talking about when I say answering the call, this pull within you, this thumping and throbbing of your heart within you, that there's something greater, that you're meant for more. To those of you, I say, I weep for you, and I bow in acknowledgement of you, because to answer that call will come with pain. It will come with a degree of terror, but also awe and wonder. Right? You might actually feel alive once you answer this call, and the universe will rearrange itself for your benefit, because this universe wants to see you succeed in this. And I bow in acknowledgement, because having myself answer the call and needing to repeatedly come back to this, because it's never just one yes and you're done. Like with Frodo, he needed multiple reminders, right? Multiple reminders when he felt, I don't know if I want to do this. I don't know if I can do this. Right? We need to remind ourselves of who we are. And sometimes it's the helpers, it's the allies who come alongside and remind us of who we are when we forget. And so that is a big task for any man to answer, and it is also a very courageous thing to do. So that's all for today's video, and I thank you for tuning in, and I will see you in the next episode.